Morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out. We are still missing one person in order for us to do business, but we can go ahead and discuss, parklets that are on the agenda. We just can't vote and approve anything. So Giovanni, who wanted to be on the committee? Rebecca, she's not here. Fran, present. Marie, present. Tony. Dion.
Here.
Frank is at a conference, so I'm gonna give him an excuse, because he told me that a long time ago. Jane is here. Susan. Dave is out of town. Savannah's here. I'm here. Emily has a illness, her double ear infection for one of her children, so that's excusable. Jeannie's here and Greg's absent. Okay. Well, do we do public comment? Jimmy? Okay, any public comment?
I just have a question.
Okay.
Can you give an update on the 5 priorities that you had last year? Which ones? I know a couple of them on council.
Right, okay. Am I allowed to respond?
No, you're really not.
I'll tell you privately. Okay,
Sorry,
because it's
just
public comment, we
It's not
don't,
on forum, so we can't get into a discussion on
Yeah.
something that's not on the agenda.
okay, no, I'll tell you offline. Any other public comment here? Okay. We can't approve the minutes. So today we were going to discuss parklet requirements. And, for future parklets, not for future parklets, for the 2 existing parklets and any future parklets. So that the city of Gilroy would have a policy that they could follow. We can go ahead and discuss our ideas for the parklet and then bring it back. And then we're going to discuss our next meeting date. Because what we're finding out is that with the work plan, community development's really bogged down. And I am talking to Sharon and setting up a meeting because I feel that the purpose of this committee was to make our downtown better. I thought that's why everyone was here. In appearance, in trying to get the empty buildings done. And if these 3 items, parklets, vending, not vending, I'm sorry, parklets, the plywood removal and the empty buildings get pushed off until the end of 24 and 2025, we wasted a whole year. And I don't want to see that happen because the building owners are starting to get a little antsy. They're starting to lease their buildings, they're talking because they're worried about these ordinances coming down on them, because we're not talking 1 or 2 years that these buildings have been empty. We're talking 5+ years. And that's unacceptable because it's crippling the downtown. And so I'm hoping, because I feel like our 2 ordinances that we already wrote are pretty much in good format, where it's not going to be like community development has to rip it all apart, rewrite it, spend hours of research. They were all based on research. And what I would like to see, and hopefully the committee would like to see, is that it passes community development, goes to legal, passes that, comes back to the council for a vote, and we can start, enforcing.
It's on our agenda.
Well, I guess it had to do with our next meeting date, because if you remember, I was giving you April off.
So are you skipping 5?
We're gonna go back to 5. I guess I'm hoping that another person, number 8, is gonna walk through the door. So we were going to go to every other month. What I'm leading up to saying is there's no point in this committee continuing to keep working on these projects on our list if they're not going to be addressed. We're spinning our wheels. We did accept Jimmy's request of doing parklets, and that we will do, but it's time to take a little hiatus, and that's what I wanted to talk to all of you about. But I also want to tie up loose ends because we have code enforcement that has never reported. So instead of dragging this out to May, and again, we can't vote on it, but something to think about, I'll send it out through an email. I suggest that we come back next month, April, finish up do parklets, hear from code enforcement. And then if we have to come back in May to finish what we don't complete next month, we do that. And then maybe we take a hiatus until the fall. We could come back sooner if someone says we've got an urgent issue that we need to deal with, if vending kind of falls apart, and needs to be addressed, whatever. We can look into it, but something for you to think about. Okay, and I'll need to get a quorum through email about an April meeting.
And if we do decide on an April meeting after you put it out there, are we staying on the same date, the second Tuesday?
Yes, yes, we'll stay, whenever we reconvene, even if we reconvene like 5 months from now, it'll always be the second Tuesday.
Okay.
All right, unless something that we can't perceive happens. So we don't have a quorum.
No, but you can get, may I make a suggestion?
Sure,
Because on item 5, which is what would be nice to use this time for, even though we
Yes.
can't vote on anything, is why not go through the specific, like, height?
oh, we will.
Parking fee.
We
But I-
talked about that before you got here. We had already,
Oh, before the
Jimmy,
meeting
yeah,
started?
well, Jimmy and I talked a little bit about what do we do if there's not a quorum? And he said, you can discuss, you just can't vote. And that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Okay, because it's already almost 10 after.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
All righty, so. Height. I had visions I was gonna have an easel pad and felt tip markers where we can look at it, but we'll just discuss this. We're not going on anything. How many of you actually looked at other cities and what they had to offer? Oh, good. Did any, I know, Jane, you looked at Watsonville. I looked at Watsonville. They had a really good one. Anyone else look at Watsonville?
Just online.
Oh, I mean, that's right, yeah,
Yeah,
online, yeah.
I looked at a lot of them, but I'd
Uh-huh.
like to make a suggestion that when it comes to height, it should be no higher than the height of a parked car unless you can fully
Exactly.
see through it.
Right, right.
So I
And that
personally, I
height is
think
what? Did you get
the
with
height of
this?
a parked
Yeah, but
car.
how high is that?
Or a sedan?
You guys.
Right,
I mean,
4
no,
foot.
I mean,
Well, a
I'm
truck
just
would be
saying,
higher.
it's gonna be
It's
the
gonna be
biggest
safe.
car that can legally be parked on a street.
I'm just saying.
Because if that space is meant for parking vehicles, if it's a vehicle that's legally parked there, then you can't avoid.
I think it still needs.
Number 8 just walked in. Yay, we can do business.
If you look
Okay.
online, a lot of the nice ones, they're about 4 feet.
Yeah, that's what.
So
Okay,
40
So
did-
4 feet that you can't, is the maximum that you cannot see through.
Right,
And the rest is something you can fully see.
or to see over or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe we just take notes, go around the room as to who is saying what, and then you can see what the
Yes.
majority is.
No, I think
suggesting.
that,
What would be the height of a pallet?
Now,
Think about a pallet
Yeah.
stuff.
did they, I know I went to the one council meeting where they talked about parklets and approved the program. How many are allowed to come in?
We don't have a program.
we don't have a
That's what-
program.
Right, right, but they approved coming up with a program. I
Right,
guess.
and that's where,
Okay.
and they asked if we would take it on to start it. And all we're doing is aesthetics. Jimmy and Sharon and I, we already talked about community development does the code part of it.
Right.
Yeah,
the-
we're not, it's not just aesthetics. We are the ones who would come up with, is there gonna be a fee that we're gonna charge?
Well, yeah,
them?
that too,
Okay.
that too, but I mean, we're not doing anything with code, okay?
Yeah.
So, height. So 48 inches we've heard,
That you
But-
can't see through.
4 feet high.
yeah, that's 48 inches, yeah, 4 feet,
As far as
Okay,
the,
I'm 5'3" on a good day.
that's pretty high. I'm gonna throw out 36 inches, 3 feet. Well, let's see, 3 feet would allow you to be able to see the people dining inside of a parklet. Do you want to see that? I mean, we should be
Yeah,
able
but
to see
take that
from here on up,
for ruler.
yeah.
Standard tables for 30 inches up front, so that.
6 more inches.
If you go about 10 or 12 inches above that.
Mhm.
If the logo brings you where spot on for you.
Throw out some other, no, I mean, this is not grind in stone, throw out some other heights that you want. How?
36.
36, 33 feet? All right,
Or
No,
maybe
you
we
mean
go
the
at
non-visible-
42,
Yeah,
you know,
you're
we don't
referring to
have
the
to be sleep.
Right,
That you
right.
can't see through. Yeah. Because some might put up wind block, you know what I mean, wind block. things
That's a
like
whole other topic.
that's a whole other topic, yeah.
And then if they have
Right.
like a roof, a cover, that you wouldn't be able to see through that either. So I.
Well, we're gonna talk about that. Let's get the height of that actual wall first.
Okay.
42 inches could be thrown out too.
Sounds good.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Okay, Any other inches? Because I'm gonna ask you guys for a vote on this, and so we can actually get some business done today. Any other inches? All right, so what we have on the table is 36 inches, 42 inches, 48 inches. How many want 36 inches? Okay.
Is that the height of the permanent structure? Sorry.
No, this is just from the ground up. This is the base wall around. We're gonna start there, okay?
And would that include, like, if it's a floor? Because we talked about having a floor. And if you have a floor, it needs to be, I don't know, 4 or 6 inches off the ground.
Even if they had a floor, the outside wall would have to start at the ground level. So yeah, that would include.
So if you added a 6-inch floor, you're gonna be back to
Mm,
36 or 38 if you go with 42 or 48.
No, I'm talking about that wall would actually have to be starting from the street level.
Correct.
What if you had a range
Yeah.
depending on their
Or say
design?
now, the people have 30 inches.
Right, about house.
Yeah, I didn't think that.
Carol, what if you had a range depending on their design? A lot of the cities I read, it has to, the design, they kind of put it out and you have to approve of it, and
Mhm.
where it's located could be a different situation. I don't know.
Or we say a
But hard and
maximum,
fast.
maybe we say a maximum height.
Yeah.
I know Watsonville has a minimum height.
Right.
And their minimum, I'm 30 inches.
My papers
in the trunk, huh? 30 for the solid.
There should definitely be a minimum.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what we worded, if they wanna have it lower, they can have it lower. So then let's go back to, okay, maximum height of 36 inches,
No,
No,
maximum height of 42 inches. 48 inches. Wait, there's more than.
I say 48, well, I said 48, but it's.
Yeah.
I would say 48 because if you've got a floor in there,
Yeah,
it's gonna
Okay.
raise those people up,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
tables and everything.
Okay,
So that's two.
so that's 4 feet. Um,
From the ground.
yeah, around. Yeah. All right. Now. Do we allow them to build up? Or is that structure that structure ends at 48 inches? And we say nothing going up higher, nothing overhead. Because it's when they have the wood coming up, that makes it very difficult for people to see around it when they're coming out of the alleyway.
About clear, the wind blocks like, simple house.
Oh, okay, the plexiglass.
So that's what I was saying, something you see through.
You had safety concerns for that, and some additional issues around that, too.
Around having it or not having it?
Having it, you had a bunch of safety issues with. height
Well, it
stuff
gets dirty after a while.
And well, that's, yes, that's why.
that's the.
It did, but yeah, you want it to be looking. Which
And then was it Hollister or Santa Cruz I was looking at too, and they just have like banner boxes.
Mhm, they do.
Mhm.
They have honey boxes.
And they look very clean, very neat.
Mhm. Wood umbrellas, suggesting just tables and umbrellas be appropriate, no? Or is it-
I don't think so. I think umbrellas would obscure the site, the line of sight to other businesses.
Or people who are restaurant owners. What about year round, if you don't have a roof, of course, you're not gonna be able to use
You're
it.
not gonna use it anyway, because it's not a solid.
How many of them are used right now?
Yeah,
No, I don't see anybody in any.
I'm not gonna go back there.
So then we need to state that there's no covering.
Right, well, it's meant to be outdoor seating. So
Right.
the covering, it's not meant to prevent rain.
Yeah.
Shade
It's
is,
like shit.
Yeah.
shade is the thing to consider, because other than shade, in my opinion, anything else that you allow to go up, even if it's a single pole to attach plexiglass, whatever that's to,
Mhm.
it also makes it easier for people to abuse that by hanging things on those poles, attaching TVs to them, putting stuff that we don't want. If we make it less likely for people to be able to do that, then we don't have the enforcement problem
Right,
later. So I personally would like to see us address strictly shade. If shade is something we would like to be able to provide for outdoor seating, which I think normally you would, then how do you address that?
So would just the big, those, I don't know what to call it, like the shade flags that you drape over, is that something that you're thinking about?
I don't know how different that is though from visibility thing that Savannah's saying, but to me, the fact that we went forward with these parklets at all is already saying we're obstructing visibility. We've already made that decision by allowing parklets in the first place. Because I'm sure none of these other cities don't, they have shade, don't they?
There's
Yeah.
umbrellas.
A lot of them
Yeah.
have umbrellas.
Because your umbrellas are lovely, in your area. And you
We put the shade sails up.
Yeah, that too.
That's what it's called, shade
Shade
sails.
sail,
So we could say shade sails or umbrellas.
yes, but nothing higher than 48 inches.
The dilemma with shade sails though is that guy have the supports. If it-
That's true.
Right.
And
For
so
the sails, they have to have some
it
support.
becomes easy to enforce if it's just freestanding table umbrellas have a certain size or smaller, it's much easier from code enforcement perspective, I would think. And trying to come up with how many posts you can get and how many sails and how many.
Well, that goes through the approval process, that's what would do that. But I don't know if one of those poles that support a shade sail would be strong enough for people to hang the things that we don't want them hanging up there.
All right, so let's take a vote on. How many of you want to have an actual structure above 48 inches with actual roof covering that you can attach the shade sails to or a roof? Is anyone in agreement to that?
What do you mean?
Like what we already have, Tempo and Station 55, when they're built up. And then,
I'd be okay with you. 4 holes.
Right, to hold something.
Poles that are like the 1 inch diameter.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, so none of us want the full-fledged cover. How many of you would like just umbrellas? You put in this as
That's
a.
fine.
I think umbrellas are.
I like
Umbrellas look
So so then that would take the shade sails out of the picture, if you just did umbrellas. Are you okay with
Well, then
that?
you need to document it, just umbrellas and no shade sails.
When we do this, I'll type this up, send it out to you, and then we'll come back and finalize all this.
Well, it's the goal to try and minimize people who park with.
Well, in reality, I mean,
Hey, Jeannie, even with
Yeah.
the rules that we have now, which are none, we only have the 2.
we only have the two, we don't have
They
anybody
don't want to,
else.
parklets really.
I just asked a question.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I
This
know.
was strong, so
Just
that's why
saying.
I'm putting it, because it sounds like, I don't like it either, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the goal, then you're ratcheting down.
And I think
Second
the goal of the
negative.
committee is the beautification
That's it,
of downtown, making it look nicer.
that's right.
So you wanna come up with something that's gonna look.
And the umbrellas
Appropriate.
are really.
Nice.
Is it not possible to get like prefabricated so that they're all consistent?
Yes, we're getting to that. That's a different topic. That's a different part of this. So I would start with height and whether we want the overhead structure to be umbrellas, tables. I know when the survey was done, there's only one person that said he would consider putting in a parklet. There were a few that said they would if the city paid for it, but. So, yeah, technically, we're only talking about them two, just to get them to look nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
So one more thing to consider with the uniform look, if you say umbrellas and not a shade sail, it's gonna be harder to get uniformity, because umbrellas will then be whatever.
Unless they have to purchase them from a certain,
Okay,
company.
okay,
these are your outlets.
okay, yeah.
I don't know if it's certain companies, I'll just go ahead and question mark that.
Okay.
We want you to be more specific. Now, there were because some of the people from the committee did talk to me about what they wanted. Building materials. Savannah, that takes in on what you're talking about. Have any of you recently been over to Hollister to see their wooden carpets? Sue, what did you think?
They're okay. Or do I want to sit in them? No. I'm not
They're weathered. They're weathered. Yeah,
I
when I
would.
first went in, they have a real nice redwood look to it, and they look sharp, just looking down that street, but after 4 or 5 years, they became weathered. And that's what ours would look like too. I mean, Tempo's looking higher right now because of the wood. So building materials and different men talk to me about, there's that pre-finished wood that we could say this is what we want the material made out of. I guess it's also called composite wood, and
Trex.
What is it?
Trex.
Well, Trex is the brand.
The brand. Right.
Like jacuzzi is a.
How do you, and then, of course, someone suggested wrought iron, which would be beautiful, but it's also very expensive, but if we wanted that as building materials, we could throw it in and leave that as an option for the people. But how do you feel about prefabricated wood, certain type, so that it always, 10 years from now, looks good?
It's consistent.
How many agree? They want some type of prefabricated, and then we can just go ahead and write down, you know, the different types. How many would like to keep wrought iron in, if someone wanted to use wrought iron? I highly doubt it, because it's so expensive, but how? Would you give them the option?
Well, you're looking for uniformity. If you want uniformity, then you're in the application.
Then let's do prefabricated.
I'm good with that.
Do we need to be more specific than prefabricated, or does prefabricated?
But then you got, then you get into colors.
Colors,
Whites,
yeah,
stains, and-
I had Winchester gray in my house.
Okay.
So it paints it a bright color.
So my
Red.
Do you want, then knowing that, do you want to attach a color to it?
Yes.
What color would you like?
Great.
Winchester gray. I can tell you Trex makes Winchester gray.
Okay, great. Any other suggestions?
I like earth tone or brown, looks like real wood.
Mm-hmm. Down with you, I like that, or,
Yeah, so
that
that
is
is.
tone brown.
And I know Dave put like that brown door bowling alley with brick around it. I don't know.
No
Yeah,
brick.
City Hall kind of
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I think it's going too far, where they sit, you know, paint art colors. I don't know.
Leave it up to them.
Yeah, I think.
It's like you're building.
Set the heights and stuff, and, you know, if they're different, that just adds to downtown.
But suppose someone comes out with a little bright orange.
Well, maybe you can have a scale for a scheme, you know, that you can use one of these colors.
Maybe in our specific, I know in our specific plan, we have a color scheme. Maybe we use the color scheme from the specific plan.
What color is that?
Or maybe we could even say a color that blends well with your building. Yeah.
Well, Carol, because our downtown specific plan is so historic, we know we're gonna be addressing it anyway, which will probably, when we come out with these other, all of a sudden we've got this parklet color that doesn't fit with the big plan.
Right.
It's almost like we're taking a minutia piece and saying, do this, and then we have a big plan. So I'm more about, you know, use your common sense. Does it look nice with your building?
That's kind of what you did with the window design.
Common sense is grand.
Yes, nurture it.
Have you seen that house in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I
Basically
have.
nice with the building.
But I'm still gonna nurture it.
Complimentary with the.
Complements your building
Rather than just
color.
saying anybody stupid.
So that means the one on the corner could be green?
That worries me. We've got a bright red and yellow grocery store downtown.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the park would look like if they built one.
So it's just saying, you're sticking more with earth tones, you know.
Yeah, all right.
You do say earth tones, colors and plan.
Now, are these parklets gonna go out in the street?
That by definition, they're in the street.
And how many more installed? you know, out?
Yeah, we'll get,
Yeah, that's
we will get to
addressed.
that. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about, well, I think by keeping it 48 inches, it takes in the good neighbor policy. Do you believe that any of these parklets should have flat screen TVs?
No.
Piped in music?
No.
Okay, so good neighbor policy. Do you believe that, when the restaurant closes down, parklets close down? Now, when I say that, I mean service to the parklets, because you cannot ban anyone from going into a parklet and just sitting.
Yes.
But service to a parklet closes down when the restaurant closes down.
Yes.
Everyone, you're.
How are you gonna control that with the owners? there's people out on these streets at 11, 12, 1, 2.
They just don't have a waiter go out there to take orders.
Right, and they're gonna sit in.
They're gonna hang
Yeah,
out.
they're gonna
Well, yeah,
take your public space.
Yeah.
space.
Except that unless you're gonna say that you can't be drinking alcohol in public spaces, can you?
If you have a liquor.
If you have a license, right.
But the restaurant's closed, so the liquor license doesn't expand to,
Exactly.
right? If
I
I'm
think
closed,
the actual restaurant would control that because, you know, you might say, please don't take my glasses out to Parkwood
Mhm.
and leave them, you know, that.
I know, but who's gonna control that? I'm not gonna have.
I don't know if we'd be able to control that. We're allowing people to
Go out there and
rather than sit. I think as long as we don't have service, that might deter. And then if, you know, if a few people go out there and sit, as long as they're not rowdy. You know?
sounds like
Then it's another-
sounds like a stage for the homeless to
Yeah,
sleep
yeah,
all night.
exactly.
And
But again,
down the hill,
that's
right?
not-
Sleeping.
Can't go there.
They haven't yet. Have we
But
had
there's
a
no place,
problem?
that- well, they
Oh,
sleep
there's
in
temples,
the den ends, you know, in, what they call
Oh,
it,
they
in
do.
codes.
They break into my
Alcoves.
back area all the time,
All right.
so.
And they were sleeping in the alcoves of some of the buildings at Denton, you know, they were sleeping there.
But we can't outlaw it though. It's a law that it's a public space, so I guess.
So we're opening
Well, I don't
up.
think I don't think we're gonna have tons of parks. I mean, we're just trying to get some uniformity to what we have, so they look okay. And if anyone does wanna put in a park, these are the requirements they have.
One of the things, if you don't have the roofs and stuff on them, the homeless probably won't sleep in there because they'll cover. If you make them open.
Karen,
Uh-huh.
is it under
Spring and
the
summer.
the dimensions or property lines, things of that nature?
No, there's no pipe-in music, no flat screen. Just write this down so I don't forget it. And Parkwood, I would say Parkwood service shuts down when the restaurant shuts down.
So if Temple's having music till 1 or 2 in the morning,
Well, service shuts down. That means that
They
if
just go
it's
sit.
10 o'clock, they stop serving food.
okay, once
No
the-
one goes out there to take orders. If people go out there to drink or buy food and eat, that's up
And
to.
do they have to get a liquor license? Or that?
They have to have a liquor license, yeah, and I think both do. Let's see. Okay, and then we have on the list. You know, I'm just gonna throw this out because this is one of the main complaints that we have heard about with one of the parklets. The restaurant needs to be responsible for cleaning up the area. You know, if you're going to serve food, at the end, before you close, you should at least walk out and pick up all the garbage around the parklet. Should that just be common sense, or should we make mention of it? Common sense.
No, I think you can make mention that it has to be left clean, you know,
Uh-huh.
because
But Susan, who's gonna monitor that?
the restaurant owner.
I know, but
Yeah.
we have code enforcement out there monitoring.
Oh, no, I don't want code enforcement monitoring, but, so I guess if they leave it messy, that's another place you don't eat, right?
Yeah, it needs to be said whether or not you're not gonna go around enforcing it, I think.
So it is the
Said that.
responsibility of the parklet owner to maintain.
Yeah,
cleanliness.
as long as you maintain an area, say a storm comes through and blows everything over, that kind of thing.
Because if the neighbors are complaining about the broken glass and all the garbage that's left from the street corner to an alleyway, and it happens continually, I mean, I can see if it acts, you know, if it happens once or twice, things happen. But if it's continual, then I think the restaurant has to be responsible for that parklet, or it gets shut down. Because you're not being a responsible neighbor, because you're allowing all these things to continue
Yeah,
happening.
I think you need to do it. I'm on the corner of Fifth and Eagleberry, and every Saturday morning and Sunday morning, there's beer bottles in
Well,
my,
that's
in my parkway,
Uh-huh.
and they're not mine.
Sure, Susie.
My husband asked me, are these yours? Like, oh, it's
That would make you responsible.
I
then.
am responsible. I pick them up.
Yeah.
And dirty diapers, I pick them up.
Yeah.
Just look.
That you remember.
Maybe they are.
I don't drink and drive, I'm scared.
Okay. So, well, I'll just throw that in surrounding area,
To be maintained,
surrounding area.
and the health, I mean, it's a health and safety issue. People leave their bottles out there, then I'm gonna go buy and break them.
Same thing we have on sidewalk.
Yeah.
They have to clean up their area.
Okay. All righty, and then, all right. Sharon and I talked about this one. And we both were in agreement, but will you be in agreement? Do you want gas pumped out to the parcels? You know where they, okay,
So they can cook out there?
yeah. so they
Or
cook,
heaters, or
have
heaters.
Heaters, I mean, they could do their propane heaters, but, any extension cords, do you want crossing the
I'd say
sidewalk?
no.
No.
Because that's an issue that we're having right now.
And then I guess that's back to the umbrella thing that maybe, that they're allowed propane heaters or not. Or portable.
Gas. Because the gas would have had to go underground anyway. If they went to put it in, water would have to go underground. Is there any other, Jimmy, do you know of any other, lines that run into the sidewalk other than water, gas?
Yeah, no, and I think the thing about parklets in general was that they're supposed to become mobile in sense, so everything that comes in is supposed to come out, so I don't think either one of them have any actual lines right now.
Apparently
Or,
Tempo does.
I mean, so it is for electricity for the heaters, I'm talking about gas lines and water lines.
All right. I'll put down propane heaters. Now, this is a question that's gonna come up, how do they light them up at night? They're gonna say, of course I need electricity, and people are gonna be in the dark.
Well, electricity is fine as long as they put it in the sidewalk.
Underground.
Not
Mhm.
extension cords.
Okay.
There's not really a need for it anymore with all the portable energy solutions that are available that can light the place for 6 to
Solar.
8 hours. It's really,
Solar lights, they could do.
it's not solar, it's the battery systems that are
Yeah,
available.
battery.
It's not LED lights for days. You don't even need electricity anymore for lighting.
So you could give them the options, underground electrical, solar, or battery.
Yeah, Watsonville has no electrical features.
No, they don't. It solves a lot of problems, you know, it's easy, because then you don't have to worry about it being portable. All right. Let's see what else. Jane,
What's
fees,
that?
fees, right?
For safety,
Yes,
for
that was
cars.
the next thing. Okay, fees. Terrence, what was yours again? For your time, and then there was.
Delineation.
Let me look here.
What can it go in front of? Business, et cetera.
Oh, yeah, that's
Because
what
Tempo right now costs more than one business.
right. And there's a fire hydrant built right next
Yeah,
to the
that-
building, Parklet. And then with that new January 1st law that came in, you can't be 20 feet from the crosswalk. There's 3 things right there with Tempo. Okay, fees. Should we charge for parking spaces that the Parklet takes up?
Yes.
Okay. They should have a square footage charge.
Oh, well, and how many parking spaces are you allowed?
They were saying up to 3 at the other parklets.
Yeah, but I think Gilroy's a little unique. Do we really want 3 parking places taken away from
We're
downtown?
here to discuss,
Right.
except that, so San Benito County is $425 fee per year per parking spot.
So, but
No, but that's what it is,
Per spot,
just per spot.
So they do two spots.
I think they-
maximum.
2.
Oh, San Benito? Oh,
Yeah, I
maybe.
think Watsonville does.
Watsonville's 2.
Yeah, oh, I was thinking you're talking about maximum, just saying the fee.
And then this ties right in with what Terrence is saying.
From San Benito.
Right now, Tempo does take up a piece of the bowling alley's frontage. Our parklets are just in front of the building.
that has to be.
Well, and I think the other cities have, it has to be away from a fire hydrant and crosswalks.
Yeah, they're pretty clear on that.
Yeah.
And yes, in front of the building, your building.
And can we limit, like, what Parklet could walk?
Good. Yeah, because then we have no parking.
Yeah,
I mean, we could, but then that kind of, you know, defeats the purpose of putting together a parklet program. In reality, I think when they begin to realize they're gonna be charged for the parking spaces, does Hollister also has inspection?
Yes, and an annual inspection fee. So
You know what,
we don't have- And the inspection fee goes to the city to cover the cost of having to at least annually see that things are not in disrepair. Wouldn't be the day-to-day mess that might be there, but to make sure that nothing has been attached that shouldn't be attached, to make, you know, that sort of thing.
So how do you feel about an annual inspection fee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's throw in dollar amounts, because I'm gonna type all this up, so you can digest it all, you know, for the next month.
Mhm.
And then put your opinions on, talk to other people, and then come back in April, because maybe you'll say, you know, after talking to people, let's throw this out, or let's add this to it. So this is a good starting point. So how much for an annual inspection fee do you think?
250.
250?
500.
What do we normally?
Trying to minimize it for like, not have.
You have to have a nexus between what you're charging and what it costs you, so you can't really come up with a random.
I just gonna see what's cost recovery here.
Yeah, so we would figure out the hours it would take and then we would divide.
So
So
community
we want the city to do.
Yeah.
Hollister's
We-
is 120.
If we didn't do that, we could charge like $1 million for.
And Hollister also charges an inspection fee for sidewalk dining. Both, it's less than, but we're not talking about sidewalk dining, we're talking about parklet. So they have an annual inspection fee and they have an annual per parking space fee up to a maximum number of parking spaces.
All right, let's talk about the square footage fee, because we talked about 2 parking spaces, then someone sits in a little bit larger. Let's get it more defined.
Well, you can't be encroaching on your.
So parking
neighbors.
maybe no larger than the front of your building?
Yeah, you have to stay within the parameters of your frontage.
Yeah, or one parking space, I suppose you could say. The,
Not to exceed.
not to
Two
exceed
parking
either the frontage of your business or one parking space. And if the
One?
frontage of their business is 2 parking spaces, then that's what they're gonna pay for.
Or any parking space, that's what.
Yeah, or.
But a not to exceed size.
What is the value in the, talking in commercial real estate for, you know, when you own the building and you've got so many parking stalls that are in, you know, what is the
Gary
value?
gave me that, Gary gave me that number a couple of months ago. And it's in the thousands.
That's what I'm saying, it's big
It's in the
money.
thousands, it's big money, but then you have to sit back and say, okay, is that in a city where it's real vibrant and there's tons of businesses all around, or, you know?
No, that's big value that's attached.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to sell your building later and then.
So if the, no, I was just gonna say, in Oakland, they charge $14,000 per parking space.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I think
Well, then you
Carmel
have-
charges too, because they wanted to discourage
I'm
it.
not saying Gilroy's Oakland, but I'm just saying, they're appreciating the value of that
Yeah.
public space.
That's right.
And it's so,
If
just
you
to let you know.
to charge for the 2-hour parking, if you exceeded it, how much would the fine be? Times 365 days a year.
What is that parking space worth if there was a?
Well, that's what-
There.
Well, that gets back to our parking management thing. that we
Well,
just
that's-
did. That's
Trying
right.
to get, to try
We
to.
have plenty of
value
off-street parking.
On how much that,
I mean, the figure,
how much lack of revenue, I mean, by them taking
That's
those
what they're-
spots
that's
up.
what it's figured
You know,
out.
how much revenue is the city of Peoria not getting, as down the road, isn't Peoria planning at some point to try and monitor parking if it's 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that?
Jimmy, would that be something for community development to determine the cost or the price that we would attach?
Or a parking spot per year.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where you start.
because they would have to look into fees and
Yeah.
what it's worth and I guess we could give suggestions, yeah, Terrence?
Isn't it just market rate? I mean, if I wanted to go down and basically set up a parklet independently, I'd pay $1,000 a month to have business downtown in the middle of the street and sell stuff to people. So, I mean, it seems to me like it's a market-driven kind of opportunity that what is the earning potential of having this in the street, which seems pretty high to me.
Well, and Terrence brings up a good point, is that, like, we're all thinking food, you know, what if the parklet, somebody is during the day, retail, selling something.
Which gets back to something that we haven't addressed here, and I don't know if that's on your list, Carol, but do you want parklets at all on Monterey? No.
No,
Well, that gets.
and I don't know if we can
Because
say,
like Hollister says, nobody that I saw has it on a thoroughfare. Our Monterey Street is the highway. It's- And so that's plays into all these things about the parking spaces.
and
So side streets are very different than on Monterey.
And Marie, you bring up a good point, being the highway, I mean, I know the Tempo one got in, but you know, it's a highway, is that even allowed? I mean, the state,
Well,
I mean,
I
how
think
is that?
when I moved here and I first saw it, it looked really out of place and I was surprised because it is a very busy street.
yeah, it's really not the place. It was done on a trial basis, revocable at any time.
Oh, hey,
Oh,
I was just gonna ask, is
It's
the grandfathered in?
At any time.
People don't understand, especially the owner of that building.
Yes.
Understand it's revocable at any time.
Yeah.
Well, then let's start with that one question, because that might head our parklet, program.
I didn't know if the city had already approved or not, but if it's grandfather, but I'd rather have,
It's not grand.
okay, then I'd rather have no parklets.
No parklets on that.
No parklets, period, would be my goal, front and side.
We tried
But
that.
at least one, at least not on Monterey.
So then, let's take a vote.
I just think.
How many of you would like to see no parklets on Monterey Street?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so we will put this down. If anyone has a complaint, they could have been here this morning.
No, these aren't decisions being made,
No,
these are suggestions.
I
They have to be brought to the public and
Yes.
publicly noticed meeting, and everybody will have a chance, just like everything else.
Yeah.
So are we, limiting it to food vendors only, not if the flower shop wants to put one on Fifth Street and sell flowers?
That's a good question.
Everyone said, I think I saw some, no retail.
No retail?
I think it's supposed to be dining only.
Dining only,
Because
okay.
Hollister did allow retail. So you just
During
want,
COVID.
you want to just say parklets used for dining only.
Except during COVID, huh? They could come back.
Hopefully.
COVID too.
COVID too.
Dining only means they have to serve food. So,
No, okay, let's see, okay, we already talked about the fees, we talked about 20 feet from crosswalks.
Yeah.
Here was, okay, one of the cities had a in fact, in San Francisco, had a 6-foot gap between parklets. So emergency crews could get through, people could get through. Do we want to say that your parklets cannot be butted up to each other or a foot apart, but do you want a distance?
Oh, at least 6 foot, maybe 12.
Maybe a.
That
was
was-
Just for example, like if somebody's like
Yeah.
on that side, they have to, and maybe a car's coming, like you,
A parking space, so a car can get through.
yeah.
Okay, and now you're shrinking, you know, keep in mind when you say you're gonna go 12 feet, you're shrinking down that space of a
18 feet.
parklet, because remember, cannot extend beyond the building that the parklet's in front of, now you're gonna shrink it down more.
Only if they wanna butt the next one up to.
They
No,
can't.
they can't, they can say this, keep 6
Mhm.
feet, that'd be 3 feet on one building on your side, 3 feet on the other building on your side.
You could have shared lot lines, right? So you could have two, one on either side of it, so you basically have half.
I mean, I'm throwing it out to you, I mean, are you guys going,
There
yes?
has to be access, let's say, okay, just hypothetically, 8 businesses have them in a row
Mhm.
and they're all butted up to each other. That just makes it really difficult. I mean, in an emergency.
Well, it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There has to be.
Okay, so what kind of footage do you want to say?
Whatever is this.
San Francisco did 6.
6 inch.
Well, to
But
me,
is
that's
that
a
6
big.
foot between each
road.
way?
You think? Okay, so we'll just say we want,
They need to be separated.
yeah, we want separation.
For emergency access.
And like you bring up ADA.
ADA would require it to be 36 inches.
And separation.
I'm just thinking, Dan thinks he's opening a wine bar in the White House, so he could have a
But
parklet.
that's not in the,
Yeah, he's on Fifth Street, so he could have a parklet, and there's already very little parking around Fifth Street.
According to our parking study.
Yeah, our parking study says we need to put signs to show you where the parking lots are. You don't need to be parking right in front of them.
Well, I like to park in front of my business.
I know, I'm just saying.
It's, I think it's back to how many people are gonna, I mean, if there's a lot of lazy people that don't wanna park on 7th and then walk all
To Fifth, yeah.
Get to signage. Are you gonna get to that before we?
Oh, that's the last thing,
Okay.
right there, right, that's the very last thing. Do you want signage on the parklets, or do you want to say no signage on any park? When we talk about signage, we're talking advertising.
We're talking, anything with words or pictures that would be mounted on the structure that we're saying is 42 inches high or 48 inches high, whatever it is we said.
Not on the outside of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, on the outside, well, if they put on the inside of it, that's their own. Yeah. But, you know, there are.
Because they should be able to see the name of the business, because that'll be on their building.
Right,
And that's not being obstructed because we're not putting up walls.
right.
So I say no.
It would be hard to have them uniform if they're then covered, everybody's gonna have a different sign. So yeah, my opinion is no signage, but I hadn't heard you.
How do you,
throw that out
how
there.
do, how do all of you feel about that new signage? They could be advertising other companies, they could be advertising political, yeah, special events, special things they're selling, political candidates, et cetera, et cetera.
I say no, except for, maybe allowing their logo. So only their logo for their business, for their restaurant, so that when people are looking at it, they know what they're looking at, who they're looking at.
Okay, how do you feel about that? Just the logo, no signage except for the business logo.
Yeah, it's
Size restriction on that, so.
with
Yeah.
size restriction, absolutely, because it's a safety thing, they're in the street, and when people are driving, if you're trying to read something, you're not looking at the pedestrian
And then
that
I
just
think
ran.
that's back to.
Well, that's true.
What was brought up earlier, that you guys didn't want anything up higher. If they have, I know like Dion, you mentioned, like say on the 4 corners, they have a pole that's up. And then they're trying to string, even though it's temporary signage, that the signage has to be at that 4-foot
Right.
level.
Okay. Okay, and then size restriction.
Size restriction on a logo, that's fine, yeah.
Anyone know, that's all I have for.
Did-
for the
me
engagement.
too.
Are you gonna require adjacent property owners or those in the area to approve?
Yeah, be notified. Some of the cities do that, that you have to send it out to.
You should be, because with your house, if you're applying for fence or.
Yeah.
No, even it's on the moment, but they do in the county, they do a 3-mile radius.
500 feet to Gilbert, yes.
Yep. I definitely had that written down too. Some of
Well,
the.
and then let's say that does say that, what is
Part of your
the
submittal.
percentage? How many, if is it 1 owner, is it 2, if they're saying, hey, no, I don't want it?
I don't know, you could probably benchmark against what some of the cities are doing, because some of them do require.
Approval of.
Whatever.
Yeah, some of those.
Watsonville does, yeah.
Yeah,
I like that. I do too. It's friendly neighborhood.
Would be fair with one tenant to take all the parking lot.
Okay, but they're, okay.
So they should have to notify everyone.
Okay, everyone inside the bill, everyone.
The building owners as well as the tenants.
Tenant,
Is that?
yeah, yeah.
Should be both.
That's the way it's all Watsonville does it, yeah.
Owners and tenants. Watsonville's pretty well written.
It is,
I like
Watsonville is very
Yeah.
well written.
So Carol, also, I mean, maybe you discussed it before I got here. Is it just assumed it has to be ADA? Or do we put that in writing?
I believe that's assumed.
Well, I know it does, but we better,
Well, that comes under community development.
Okay.
When they get their permit, they have to go.
and each parklet should have a fire extinguisher, right?
That's gonna be the code. It's gonna be fire code, so. You can always put that stuff in there, but it's gonna have.
Is there
to, whether you put it
smoking
in-
allowed inside these apartments?
Yeah. I see.
Smoking allowed inside?
So Jimmy, can it get to a point where, I know we're putting air signs and stuff, but does it go to council or who's it go to where possibly Gilroy votes that, hey, I just don't want parklets, period?
Yeah, it goes to full council.
Okay, so that can happen, and then the other two then are temporary, you allow them for a certain time, or?
I think
Right.
time is, one, I think time is run out. We've given 2 extensions on that one.
Jimmy, you said smoking will be allowed,
And most of them, they're not.
because that's all the 2 are used for, is smoking.
But I'm just saying, that's what I've seen.
So no smoking.
Yeah.
Well, I think it needs to be no smoking. Your council passed a law, no smoking within 25 feet of anything on a duplex on up.
You mean people are not following?
Hey, Carol, can I make one other simple suggestion? Why don't you just define a planter box of a certain size, a certain design, a couple designs? And those are like Legos that anybody can basically use and define their space with and plant with whatever approved plants go into those, kept at approved height. And it becomes very simple for somebody to set one up. They want to set, it doesn't become super costly necessarily, so we might get some of them easy to take down. There's not a whole lot of like weird regulations that you have to create around it. And I don't know, it just seems like a much simpler way to get them
And
done.
they would be inside the parklet.
That's a good idea.
That's what it's done.
It just becomes modular, right? So you have planter boxes that are of a certain design that goes in design spec that has to apply to, that the city has. And they can build whatever number of those that they need to define their parking space, and then that becomes the parklet. And they can be of a certain design or colors that get put into the design document, certain plants that are.
the walls, planter boxes.
Yeah, those become the walls.
Oh,
That's a good idea, because when somebody comes off business, the city's not gonna be able to look that bad to remove it.
it'd be
Whereas
easy.
it's
long as there's
a permanent structure,
Yeah.
and
I just suspect, I mean, I don't know, I'm a CPA, not a builder, but I suspect that when it gets to code, they're gonna have to somehow be attached to each other so that there isn't a risk that they could be pushed over and
Yeah, that
knocked
can be a
over.
design, and the width of them, that,
No, I know, but they're gonna have to, I don't think
Bolted
it can
together.
even just pick one up and move it.
oh no, you're not gonna be able to pick them up and
Oh,
move
no.
them, it's like dirt in them.
I understand heavy, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be. Okay, they'll have to be somewhat attached to each other so that they cannot. No matter the force of
Anyway.
nature.
Modular seems like an easy way to,
Modular, so easy to take down if that business goes out and.
and the beautification becomes plants, right, that look nice in an area.
Mhm.
And I want to say that's kind of how Santa Cruz did it. They were concrete.
Right,
Mhm.
that's another way to do it too, you can basically specify a concrete planter that they have to use.
You write this down, I might be calling you with the word, for the wording. I'll get home and say, when did I need to write that? Wait for Terrence.
Takes a
Planter
while.
boxes define parameters. Anything else? This was good. This was really good. We came up with a lot of ideas. And like I said, you know, be thinking, still be talking to people. And then we'll, try and finalize it.
So kind of next steps is.
Next step would be, I will type this up and get it out to you, hopefully next week. So are we looking at April? Yes. We're looking at April. Is that okay?
Are we gonna
Is that
try and
okay?
decide that today since we have our
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we are, make it official that the 9th is gonna be the next meeting or soon.
It would be April, it's April 9th, the second,
Yeah.
Tuesday, that would be the next date.
Oh my.
And I am going to push, I'm gonna have code enforcement do your presentation first. I feel like we've just pushed you off so much.
that, let's get that done.
Because I'm getting this subcommittee code enforcement group back together, so we have a conversation to know what we're gonna present to you next month.
Yes, April 9th is.
Okay, so we'll do that first, and then we'll go ahead and,
Yeah.
After this review, then it's submission of what we're saying, and that goes to.
no, we don't need to go to planning.
You're doing well.
Part of this, all of our information will not go to this council meeting until community development takes this. And then builds their codes into this, and they will tweak, they will tweak what we said. And then they will bring it back to the whole council,
But that'll go to the planning,
community development. Yeah, plan, we'll take it. We'll
So
take
we're
it.
looking at the end of the year.
We're probably looking at the end of the
So
year.
what happens to?
No, they get to stay for right now. Until we have a program, unless, we can do it sooner. I'm really hoping that when I meet with Sharon, that I can convince her that parklets can go along with the other two ordinances, and let's move it as quickly as possible, because this all affects business. But what?
well, I mean, if that's what later, I don't know how it works, if that goes to a vote, and what the planning suggests, or the city council, how that finally gets to where there's no more parklets.
Well, I would have to be encouraging her to kind of work on this sooner rather than later with their part of it and put everything together, then they would bring it back to the city.
Legal safety.
Community development just submitted their work plan.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I know. We thought it was where you going on. We thought it worked that this up the line into the work that.
But Carol, I just wanted to clarify that when you say the we, that's city council.
Right.
City council is the only way to influence staff's work plan. It
And
can't
there are
be,
5 of
so
us.
no, it's not Carol who
No.
can push Sharon to do anything.
But there's
Okay.
5.
No, I
of us
didn't
on
feel
this
that.
committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 5 of us, there are 5 city council people on this committee. And we have to really work.
Where are they?
Make this moving, because everything just gets stalled, and when it gets stalled, it gets pushed back, and, we're fighting for more economic development in downtown, we have to help it as much as we can, and I think we picked the 3 main ones to help it. And some of the other ones that I was looking at, that you have like the gateways, that's important, but the bud is, the funding issue, that's not an ordinance, that's not, they're just different. And like the noise ordinance will be done later on, and that's different. Anyway, okay.
So I have a question.
Yes,
Since it was brought up that sounds like Chempos is not conforming to some new laws and going in past the neighborhood, is anything gonna be done about that since it's covering a sidewalk, by a sidewalk, or too close to sidewalk, too close to hydrant?
if the parklet program is completely written up by committee, brought back to council, if council adopts this, then they're going to have to conform and tear it down.
But legally, they don't have to because they're not following the sidewalk or
I mean,
the crosswalk law,
It
the
could be
neighbor's law.
that is, that's really up to the city. They're gonna go after them on that January 1st law and fire hydrant. I guess I talked with someone,
Well, isn't there a liability for somebody? The law is a law.
yeah, we have 1 minute. So that falls on the city, to see where the liability is, the law is there. We're just helping with setting up the program, but then moves on.
Okay.
So, all right, thank you all very much for coming. And we'll see you in April.